Welcome back to our channel, Cinema in a Nutshell. Today we're diving into a cinematic masterpiece that's so good, it might just give MrBeast a run for his money. That's right, we're setting our sights on 378 million subscribers because, let's be honest, who wouldn't want to compete with the guy who gives away islands and counts his money in gold bars? So, if you're tired of scrolling through boring content and you want to be a part of a growing cinematic revolution, now is your chance. Hit that subscribe button and join our wild ride. Remember, every click gets us a step closer to world domination. Or, just being fabulously successful. Let's do this. Our story today begins with a government representative who is asking people on the street about their opinions on Al Jazeera prison. Many have expressed that this decision is one of the best the state has made because it provides them with safety and keeps criminals away from society. The general consensus is that they prefer the criminals to be isolated there so they can be rid of one another. After that, we see a group of journalists reviewing the footage in preparation for broadcasting it on television. Through them, we learn that 3 years ago, the government decided to replace the death penalty with exile to a mysterious island known as Prison Island, a place from which there is no escape. To secure the island and prevent escapes, the government has surrounded it with mines in all directions and has stationed a warship to monitor the only safe maritime passage leading to it. The channel's owner decides to produce a new documentary about the island and its inhabitants, with the goal of learning more about them. They select a number of prisoners to be the focal point, including Bobby Farr, who attempted to rob a bank and made off with a substantial sum of money, Lee Phillips, who blew up a bank and threatened the manager with murder, Joy Lang, a woman who killed her husband, Dr. Norman Malford, a man known for his madness, who is indifferent to everything. The production team hopes that the film will turn out as they envision and capture the audience's interest. At the same time, a new inmate named Carmen Sams arrives at the island. The officer accompanying her informs her that her sentence of exile has been issued for life, and she will leave the island only as a lifeless body. Her death will be officially recorded by the state, and she will have no rights to life. He asks her to sign an acknowledgement of this, but in her intense anger and sadness, she throws the paper into the sea. She is then shocked to see a body floating in the water, and upon reaching the shore, she discovers a larger number of corpses lying on the sand, neglected by everyone. Carmen begins to grasp the reality of the situation she is in, so she sits down for a moment to rest. Meanwhile, a man observes her from a distance, and she does not notice his presence. When she tries to start a fire, she fails because she is not accustomed to primitive living. As the man approaches her, she grabs an axe and prepares to defend herself out of fear. However, he speaks to her calmly and tells her that he was a doctor before coming to the island and that he is used to welcoming newcomers. He tries to get to know her, and she tells him that her name is Carmen. He responds that his name is Norman Malford. He begins to explain life on the island and tells her that they live in a nearby camp that includes about 40 people. He adds that they were 75 people at the beginning of the project, but their numbers have gradually decreased due to killings and natural deaths. When Carmen asks him about the corpses she saw on the shore, Norman mocks the question and reminds her that everyone on the island is a criminal by nature. However, he surprises her by saying that he is innocent and has never killed anyone in his life, and that he arrived on the island unjustly. After a short time, Norman leaves her and goes away, so Carmen decides to spend her night alone on the beach. The next morning, she heads to the camp and finds men wearing uniforms, each with specific duties. Bobby, the camp leader, comes out with his assistant Monk, and they see Carmen approaching, prompting everyone to gather and look at her. Bobby orders his assistant Monk to talk to her, but Monk treats her rudely. Carmen argues with him and threatens him, which insults his pride. He starts to respond to her violently and hits her in front of everyone to prove to her that the first and last word in this place belongs to them, and that she must obey the orders without objection. After he finishes humiliating her, Bobby returns to order everyone to go back to their tasks. When night falls, the women return to the hut where they sleep, only to find Carmen asleep on one of their beds, which angers them greatly. One of the women attacks her, hitting her and dragging her roughly on the ground, while Carmen does not understand what mistake she has made. A girl named Joy intervenes and saves Carmen, beginning to explain the system of life on the island. When everyone pressures her, Carmen is forced to leave the hut. But as soon as she steps out, she finds two men waiting for her, who force her to return inside. Carmen is surprised by the way they are treating her and tries to understand what they want. The women explain to her that the men keep them locked in this hut to remain under their control, meaning that there are no other women on the island, and the men always want to be close to them. Carmen realizes that she cannot endure this harsh treatment and that she has a strong personality that will not allow anyone to control her. She argues with them and warns them not to come near her again. She threatens the woman who hit her initially, saying that she will end her life just as she did with her former cellmate, asserting that no one can stop her from doing what she wants. The next morning, Carmen begins to work like the other women to avoid trouble. The men treat the women as if they are slaves, forcing them to perform very hard labor. Carmen wonders what makes the women endure all this humiliation. She discovers that any woman who objects to the orders is killed immediately. She also learns that a group of prisoners has completely left the camp and gone to live in another part of the island. Carmen begins to consider joining them, but her friend warns her, insisting that everyone is bad and no one knows how those outside the camp will treat her. In one incident, one of the women offers a bottle of water to one of the standing men, but he throws it in her face and humiliates her severely. A young man named Chino, the youngest of the men on the island, witnesses the situation and feels sad for her, so he goes to comfort her. However, his leader objects to his behavior. Bobby hits the young man Chino in front of everyone, igniting his anger. Chino pulls out a knife and prepares to confront the leader, but Monk arrives at the last moment and intervenes to stop the fight. In the end, the girl is punished instead of him, and Bobby speaks to her in a degrading manner, then orders her to work on building the new storehouse as a punishment. All the women began working at the construction site, and the conditions were extremely harsh. The stones were very heavy, and their bodies could not withstand the strain. Dr. Norman approached Carmen when he noticed an injury on her hands and tried to treat her, but she scolded him fiercely, accusing him of negligence for not warning her in advance about this hell if he truly cared for her. He justified his position by saying that if he had left her alone in the beginning, she would have certainly died, and that the camp, despite its harshness, was the safest place relatively. Suddenly, Monk arrived and saw the situation, ordering her to return to work immediately. After finishing their work and returning to the cabin to sleep, Monk forced them to do a night shift as well. The next morning, the prisoners lined up to receive food, and a fight broke out between two of them, ending with one of them being killed. They threw the body into the sea while the women were washing the prisoners' clothes. Carmen noticed a girl who never spoke, and the others told her that the girl was in shock since her entire family had been killed. Suddenly, a group of escapee prisoners attacked the camp, killed the guards, and took the women with them. Monk was afraid to inform Bobby about what had happened, fearing his anger. In the evening, the escapee prisoners and the women gathered around the fire, preparing to eat their meal. They expressed their joy, imagining that Bobby was now out of his mind with anger. The next day, they began discussing their next move and wondered what they would do with the women. Carmen declared that she would never return to Bobby and decided to stay with them. A debate ensued within the group, leading to divisions into smaller groups, and then Joy began training in shooting. By chance, Lee found a strange stone in the water and explained to Joy that it contained potassium nitrate. She said that if they mixed it with sulfur, they could make gunpowder and some grenades. When one of the men came to talk to them and check on them, Joy mocked them, saying that they were preparing for World War III. In turn, Carmen gave her lover, Aji, a poisonous plant and told him that they could extract poison from it. She had learned how to prepare it from her grandmother and was ready to do anything to protect herself. When Aji noticed her fear, he offered her his knife, but she was more interested in understanding his motives. She asked him, "Why did you rescue them from Bobby and his men?" He calmly replied that he didn't like hunting alone and preferred to be among people. His clear admiration for her became apparent, and he began to treat her with kindness and respect. For the first time, Carmen felt that there was a man treating her with humanity. They agreed to gather some berries while he went to look for food. On the other side, Bobby was extremely angry with his men and ordered Monk to search the island for the escapees. At the same time, Joy and her friend Easy discovered a beehive and decided to use the situation for a funny prank. Joy decided to pull a prank on one of the men by luring him to the location of the beehive. He fell into the trap and was aggressively attacked by the bees, prompting him to jump into the water out of pain in an attempt to escape their stings. Everyone stood watching and laughing at his comical appearance. But the moment didn't last long, as a group of Bobby's men arrived and attacked the place. A fierce fight broke out between Cornell and Monk, with each trying to eliminate the other, while the others took the opportunity to escape quickly. They then decided to set some traps for Bobby's men, and indeed, their plan succeeded, allowing them to escape easily. Monk returned to Bobby empty-handed and informed him that 2 of his men had been killed. Bobby's anger flared even more, and he harshly reprimanded Monk for his failure. Meanwhile, the escapees gathered in a safe place, trying to treat one of the injured. Aji decided to take the risk and go to fetch a doctor despite the danger, but he insisted on trying. Unfortunately, he arrived too late, as the injured person had already succumbed to his injuries. They then sat down to talk about their situation and realized that continuous escaping was not a solution. Aji said, "The best option we have now is to get rid of Bobby and his men so that we can live safely, because no one is going to leave this island, and we won't spend our whole lives on the run." The women encouraged his idea, and everyone agreed to begin the confrontation. The next morning, they began preparing weapons. Carmen prepared the poison as she had promised and explained to everyone that a small dose of it could kill a person in seconds. The other men joined the group, and Dr. Norman announced his support and full commitment to them. On the other side, one of Bobby's men was trying to make a small radio and managed to pick up a signal, but it was very weak. Lee and his companions continued preparing the bombs, and after grinding the ingredients, they mixed them in bottles. While testing one of the bombs, one of them threw it in a mocking manner, causing everyone to panic and drop to the ground. But they forgot that they hadn't lit the fuse, so the bomb did not explode. In the meantime, one of Bobby's men saw Bonnie while she was bathing in the waterfall and forcibly kidnapped her. Then another man tried to attack Easy. Bobby was very pleased when he finally managed to pick up a clear signal and began listening to what was happening on the surveillance ship, and he started to devise a plan to trap the rest of the escapees. Shortly after, the escapees realized that Bonnie had disappeared. When they searched for her, they found her tied up by the sea, without noticing that it was a trap set by Bobby. Everyone fell into the trap while Bobby was hiding, waiting for the police boat to approach the island to deliver supplies. As soon as the police saw Bonnie tied up and tortured, they decided to help her. Once they freed her, she began to run away. At the same time, one of Bobby's men sneaked onto the boat and killed the officer aboard, then confiscated his weapon and killed the other police officers on the beach. He distributed weapons to his men and ordered one of them to watch the boat while he took the rest back to the camp. Aji and his companions watched what was happening on the beach and began to wonder how Bobby knew the police boat's arrival time. Everyone felt that something suspicious was going on and started thinking of a way to escape the island. On their way, one of Bobby's men objected to his oppressive methods, and Bobby killed him immediately without any discussion. Since Easy was a good swimmer, he managed to sneak in from the sea and kill the guard who was watching the boat, giving them now a boat and weapons. They found gas pipes and decided to use them in their plan to attack Bobby. They meticulously drew up the plan, but suddenly Bonnie returned in very bad condition. The doctor rushed to her and tried to calm her down and treat her. Meanwhile, Monk began to feel that their numbers had dwindled significantly and that most of them had been killed. He realized that things were getting out of control, but when he tried to discuss it with Bobby, the latter threatened him and demanded that he follow orders without objection if he wanted to stay by his side. Then he softened his tone and assured him that he trusted him more than anyone else. In a rare moment of calm, the doctor recounted his story for the first time, how he was accused of a crime he did not commit, and how he was cut off from the world that had easily abandoned him. The next morning, everyone arrived at the campsite only to find it empty. Aji realized that Bobby had set a trap for them and explained to his friends that the camp being empty was unusual, which meant that Bobby knew about their arrival and was preparing for any attack. Despite that, they decided to proceed with their plan. Each of them took their designated position as agreed. The women carried gasoline canisters and grenades, positioning themselves at a specific location, while the men prepared for the confrontation. Joy stood watch over the road, giving instructions to Bonnie. Tyler sprayed gasoline into the pipes, leading to Bobby's hideout. Joy agreed with Bonnie that when she waved the handkerchief, Bonnie would open the gas valves and ignite the place. The operation had already begun. They blew up several locations and killed a number of Bobby's men. The rest appeared, and Bobby and Monk began shooting. Cornell was killed in the middle of the battle, and when they saw that Bobby was still holding strong, Lee decided to approach his hideout herself and threw a grenade inside, but she did not survive, as Bobby shot her, and she barely managed to escape at the last moment. Monk was injured, so he tried to take cover with Bobby, but he was accidentally shot, as Bobby thought he was one of the enemies. Bobby blamed him for his rashness and for wasting ammunition. Joy gave the agreed-upon signal, but Bonnie was completely distracted, unable to focus due to the shock. She forgot her role entirely, and instead of carrying out the mission, she ran to help one of the injured. Bobby shot at her, and she fell to the ground. The doctor rushed to her, moved her to a safe place, and decided to complete the mission himself. He succeeded in igniting the pipes leading to Bobby's hideout, who didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. He was unable to escape this time and was killed along with Monk. Some time passed, and peace returned to the camp. Everyone lived together in harmony without control or oppression. Joy became connected with one of the survivors and was overjoyed by her pregnancy, as she would soon give birth to a child. As for Monk, it turned out that he was still alive, but he had become blind. He was forced to stay among them, carrying out what was asked of him without objection. One day, a police ship arrived on the island. The officer told the doctor that his case would be reopened, and there was a strong possibility that he would be exonerated this time. However, the doctor denied that he was the same person and insisted that the doctor is dead and that he did not wish to leave the island. He explains to Bonnie that he loves her and that he has finally found the life that fulfills him, and he doesn't want to return to the old world. In the end, a new prisoner arrives on the island, and he stands to greet her as usual, welcoming her with a smile. And this is where the events of our film today come to an end. And that's a wrap on today's film. If you enjoyed our journey through this story, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. We're aiming for 1 million subscribers, and we can't do it without you. Let's grow together and make Cinema in a Nutshell your go-to source for all things film. Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us bring more amazing content to life. Until next time, keep watching, keep dreaming, and keep sharing the magic of cinema.